right, and keep on coming, a little bit over. All right, and then fill in from the left. Great.
He's good at directing.
Whenever you're ready, let me know.
Great, we're ready.
Ready. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the People's House.
Yeah.
And I want to welcome also the people who are around me together, who are the Poor People's Campaign. We come together today because the people of North Carolina were witness to the brazen seizing of power by the House and Senate Republicans. My name is Maria Cervagna, serving you as your North Carolina State Representative. And I am angry, along with all of the people here and so many North Carolinians all around the state. Senate Bill 382 is a hasty and unscrupulous response to the Republican lackluster down-ballot electoral performance. This bill was titled Disaster Bill 3 Budget Various Law Changes. It is so ironic that this bill included only $227 million in relief, when we know it at least is going to be $53 billion to save and bring back Western North Carolina. And that is less than half of the $483 million that the House Republicans provided for taxpayer-funded school voucher programs earlier that day by overriding Governor Cooper's veto of HB 10. This stark underfunded allocation is an unmistakable injustice. House and Senate Republicans chose to dedicate 131 pages of a bill to strip power from the incoming Democratic governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and superintendent of public instructions. These provisions could have far-reaching consequences for people of North Carolina, from seniors to our young children, affecting everything from the educational system to the judicial process. Also, with the results of this recent election, the House Republicans will not have the power to override a veto without putting some Democratic support come January. And because of this, it is a frenzied attempt to steal power while they can. The Republicans stuffed this bill through House. Democrats did not formally receive this bill, this 131-page bill, from the House Republicans until 3 p.m. that day, when we were supposed to vote at 1 p.m. that day. This lack of transparency in this bill is the process that's attempting to circumvent everything that we believe in as democracy in the United States and in North Carolina. And like those other two Helene recovery bills, this bill was introduced not as a bill, but as a conference report. And the reason why they introduced these bills as a conference report is that it cannot be amended. Democrats could not propose changes to the bill and must vote on it outright. It is effectively a way to stiff-arm unpopular legislation and tack it on to popular legislation that we need for our people in Western North Carolina and our state. But it was not to be. In the end, an unamendable bill, which was not publicly available until a few minutes before voting, passed the House 63-46. Yes, it is a shame.
Shame.
Shame. This is notable. But I have to say, there was 3 Republicans who voted against the bill.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, Representative Clampett, Representative Gillespie, and Pless. These are 3 Republican representatives that worked so hard since the day one, day zero of what happened in Helene. And their courage in standing up against this bill is a beacon of hope in these challenging times. Now, it went from the House, and the next day went to the Senate. And the Senate met on this, not bill, but conference report. And after that debate, Senate President Mark Robinson cleared out the gallery of all visitors. Trying to do this in the dark in our people's house. Yes. And it passed the Senate 30-19. So the next steps on this, Governor Cooper will have 10 days to veto this bill, where it will return to the House and Senate in an attempt to override this veto. I urge you, people are asking us what you do, this is what you do. And including that, before this veto override happens, let your representatives know where you stand on this. Let those Republican representatives know where you stand on this. So let's be very clear. North Carolinians voted for a Republican president, and they voted for a Democratic governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and superintendent of public instruction. There is a reason why. We have a purple state, and our people spoke through their vote. So why is this all happening now? It only can be said that the North Carolina Republicans have to be scared. They know they've lost the supermajority. They've lost seats on the Council of State, and they know they lost the governor. This is nothing more than a determined attempt at stealing power that is out of touch of the voters and the people of North Carolina. Action have consequences. And what has been done will be devastating consequences for all North Carolinians. So I transition to this great group here, led by Bishop Reverend Barber, to have some words on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative. And we're so glad to have her in the House, this legislative body. I want to, first of all, say that repairers of the breach, and the North Carolina Poor People's Campaign, Forward Justice, and you will hear in a moment all of the other groups that have come, that each one is going to come and say exactly who they are. And you know that coalition that helped to build Moral Monday was over 100 and some organizations, and we are now saying it's time once again. Yeah. We are calling the Moral Monday Coalition together in this moment, because I don't really say that North Carolina is a purple state. North Carolina is a state where the Constitution says that all power comes from the people. Yeah. North Carolina is a state where the preamble says we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all persons are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, the enjoyment of the fruit of their own labor, and the pursuit of happiness. North Carolina is a state where over 41% of its citizens are poor and or low wage. North Carolina is a state where over 39%, almost 40% of the state makes less than $15 an hour to work every day. This is what this legislature should be working on. Yes. Yes. And especially in the West and in the East is where you see the high pockets of poverty. We stand today as North Carolinians of every race and creed and color, and also every particular political party, committed to shining a light on what this anti-democratic policy violence of the current lame duck supermajority. And we've come to announce today some things that are going to happen. Now, we already know, as a representative, and thank her for pointing out, that really, in a sense, this legislature, as it currently exists is unconstitutionally constituted. That's why we've won case after case after case, and thank Forward Justice for their work. And so now they have in a situation where they no longer have the supermajority that they stole, not that they won, but that they stole through racist redistricting. We are calling today for all people, Democrats who believe in justice, to show up, Republicans who believe in justice, independents who believe in justice. Number one, to show up for every one of these votes that are coming up. Yeah. Number two, we are calling for all people of moral consciousness who know how wrong this is to be in the gallery if they are here on Monday, December the 2nd. And we are calling for, and want all the media to know, on December the 9th, a mass mobilization of North Carolinians. We're calling on Republicans, we're calling on Democrats, we're calling on independents, we're calling on young, we're calling on old, we're calling on everybody in this state who disagrees with this kind of aggressive power grabbing that is not democratic, but is more the actions of people who are more concerned about power than they are about lifting up the people. Yeah. December the 9th on Monday and December the 2nd. We're calling for December the 2nd again in the galleries and December the 9th on Monday for a mass Moral Monday mobilization. We know that it's time to come together, regardless of political affiliation. And that was one of the geniuses of the Moral Monday movement. Democrats, Republicans, independents, time to come together. We must end this legislative coup. We're going to call it exactly what this is. This is a legislative coup and a cover-up going on in the North Carolina legislature that is resulting in policy violence. The recent SB, Senate Bill 382, introduced and rushed through the legislature with barely an hour's notice, purports to be a disaster relief bill. And I want to show the media something. Where's that bill? This is the bill. Only 13 pages of this bill, about that much, is about the disaster. I want me to get there. That's all. That's all that's about the disaster. All of this is the power grab. That's right. All of this is the power grab. While people are hurting, while people are struggling, it is an autocratic, anti-democratic seizure of power. It bypasses the will of the votes of the people, and it's trying to keep North Carolinians in the dark. It is urgent that we stand up against this undemocratic, behind closed doors power grab. Whoever heard of somebody closing the gallery while a vote is going on, when that's what the gallery is there for? Right. That's right. Because this is the people's house. The corrupt legislative leadership in Raleigh is trying to change the structure of government. And everybody, I don't care what your party is, you need to understand what's going on. They are trying to change the structure of government after losing many of the recent statewide elections. Senate Bill 382 takes power from the North Carolina governor that the people voted and said they wanted, the North Carolina Attorney General, and the state school superintendent that recently run their offices. This amounts to a political coup against duly elected government officials. It is an attempt by a supermajority to use that majority to thwart the will of the voters. And they are doing it in a lame duck session. Now hear us well. McConnell might have got away with that in the federal government, but you're not going to get away with that here in North Carolina. The people voted to take away their unfettered power. The people voted to do that. The people broke that supermajority, and the people knew exactly what they were doing. And we know now they have bypassed the committee hearings. Hear us, North Carolina. Bypassed the committee hearings. The last time we saw this kind of thing was back in 2012 when they were bypassing committee hearings to try to block health care. They bypassed the necessary multiple votes in order to avoid public discussion. They have used a conference report to avoid publicity. They're trying to keep the media out of this. They have exempted themselves from North Carolina public records law in order to keep the press and the public from understanding what they are doing. They have buried this coup and cover up behind the cynical pretext of disaster relief in Western North Carolina. This bill doesn't have, in the most part, doesn't have a damn thing to do with disaster relief. It is a disaster because it's trying to reshape government when they should be lifting up the lives of people in Western North Carolina. You know something's afoot when members of their own party, Republicans from the region, voted against this assault on democracy. And Western North Carolina is hit by the hardest hurricane in recorded history. The leadership of the North Carolina General Assembly should have focused on mercy for our devastated neighbors and made sure that they had everything they needed financially to recover. Instead, they have focused on stripping power from incoming Democrats and seizing the state's electoral apparatus while people are still out of their homes in the dead of winter, while people still don't know what they're doing as the snow is about to come and the winter winds are coming down the mountain. It is clear that power, not people, remains the obsession of the Speaker of the House, of the Senate Pro Tem leader, and of those in the supermajority of the Republican Party, except for those who voted against their own party. There's time to block this, y'all. And we need to come together to demand that thoughtful and principled leadership and legislators say no. Say no to this. They need to pass a clean bill. Let me say it again, not one page of this bill should have anything to do with a power grab. Every piece of this bill should have to do with lifting our brothers and sisters in Western North Carolina. In fact, rather than trying to power grab, they ought to be adding more resources to this bill in order to take care of our brothers and sisters in Western North Carolina. Pass not only a clean bill, but pass a moral bill. Pass a bill that puts the kind of resources in it that our representative talked about that is necessary. Governor Cooper vetoed the bill. Those are the principal legislators. Don't override the veto. If there's ever a time that you need to put down the title of Republican and Democrat and pick up the title of human beings and moral leaders, it's right now. I don't care what the party or the people are in Western North Carolina. They deserve to be lifted in this moment. They don't deserve to be forgotten. They don't deserve to be stepped over on, and they don't deserve to be used in a pretext for somebody stripping power. And that is why not only must the legislators stand, but every North Carolinian that believes in justice and believes in democracy, it's time to show up nonviolently and show out. Show up on December 2nd. Fill up the galleries. Fill them up till they're overflowing. And then show up on December the 9th. Bring everybody you can. Bring your children. Bring those that are going to be affected. This is North Carolina, where the weak are supposed to grow strong and not be overrun by an unconstitutionally constituted supermajority. Right now, it's time again for the reconstitution and coming together of Moral Monday, and it's time, and it will happen.
Forward together. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you, Bishop Barber, for leading us today. We're going to hear now directly from those from our friends and family in Western North Carolina who will speak to the devastation there and the hypocrisy of this bill. And first, we're going to hear from Leslie Boyd of the Western NC Poor People's Campaign, and then Jen Hampton of Just Economics.
Yes.
Going to do a little bit of math here. This is 10%. 10%. My friends and neighbors are suffering. So many have nothing left. Nothing. I drive by places where nothing's left but the foundation, and these people are not going to get 1 cent from insurance because they weren't in the floodplain. And why weren't they in a floodplain? Because we haven't upgraded those outdated maps in generations.
That's right.
I'm furious
That's right.
that you would use me and the people I love as pawns in your cynical power grab.
Yes.
So instead of giving us a fraction of what we need to get back on our feet, how about you take a little of that surplus you're so darn proud of and give that to the people who have nothing?
There you go.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
It is time for us to stand up to these bullies and say, no, you will not do this. You will stop hurting the people I love. You will stop hurting my neighbors. You will start funding education. You will fund disaster relief. You will give us what we need. We did not vote for this. You're stealing it. And you will not be permitted this theft.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
Good morning. My name is Jen Hampton, and I live and work in the Asheville area of Western North Carolina. And I'm here today to convey and express the anger so many people in Western North Carolina feel about the bill that was passed last week. In Western North Carolina, we are angry because our community needs help. We cannot wait for funding for things like rental assistance, child care stabilization, and small business grants. As the Housing and Wages Organizer for Just Economics and staff person for the WNC Tenants Network and the co-chair of Asheville Food and Beverage United, I can tell you that evictions and threats of evictions are happening now. And I'm going to share just one such story with y'all this morning, and it really exemplifies so much of what is happening since the storm. Our area is one of the top food destinations in the country, and it's thanks to our award-winning chefs, restaurants, and workers in the service industry. The people who serve and cook our visitors are the same people who were the first ones to step up almost immediately after the storm and did what they do best, feed people.
Yes.
One such worker I know began volunteering with World Central Kitchen the first day they arrived. He showed up nearly every day, working up to 12 hours cooking and serving thousands of fresh, hot, free meals to anyone every day. He did this volunteer work because he cares about people in the community. But like thousands of others, his actual job was closed since September 27th and is still closed, which means he didn't have any income for the month of October and cannot pay his rent for November. He received an eviction notice on November 11th.
My God.
No, they didn't. And he's preparing to live in his car today
Jesus.
after stepping up to feed the community. People like this man have worked for decades to serve visitors to our community. And it's time for our elected representatives to serve us. I'm going to leave you just with this one thought. We did not have a choice in facing the natural disaster, but we do have a choice in facing an economic disaster. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Forward together.
And we are also joining Just Economics and thousands of others in demanding an eviction moratorium in Western North Carolina. Justice Newby can do it by himself, and he can do it today. But we're also encouraging the governor and the council of state to go ahead and dedicate themselves to do it because we need it in North Carolina right now. We now have a broad coalition of partners who are coming together around this and moving forward together in the next session as well. And first, we'll have Adrian Kelly, co-executive director of Democracy North Carolina.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, Rob.
And thank you, Leslie and Jen, for painting the picture that people need to see. At Democracy NC, our mission is to strengthen democratic structures, build power among disenfranchised communities, and inspire confidence in a transformed political process that works for all North Carolinians. It is clear to me that our legislative supermajority is not in line with any of these goals or values.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Legislators are elected by the people to represent the people in their districts and serve the will of those people. A devastating hurricane hit Western North Carolina on September 27th. Friends, families, and neighbors have been without electricity, without clean water, and have lost their homes and businesses. A perfect storm and an opportunity for our state government to come to the rescue with funding to feed and shelter those affected and rebuild our communities in the West. Instead, under the guise of providing hurricane relief, behind closed doors and with no opportunity for public input, the legislative majority has chosen not to serve folks in Western North Carolina, but instead to serve themselves.
Amen.
SB 382 accomplishes this by shifting power from the duly elected governor to the state auditor of their party, by removing 2 duly elected Superior Court judges, Collin and Burke, replacing them with special Superior Court judge positions controlled by legislative leadership. How ludicrous is that?
That's right.
And by removing the power of the Attorney General to safeguard the people of our state, undermining his authority and independence.
Right.
Add to that a host of changes that shorten the time frame for voters to make educated decisions on who they vote for, and adds to the already underfunded, overworked election officials' ability to count and cure ballots with accuracy and integrity in future elections. None of these actions strengthen democratic structures. They don't acknowledge the will of the people.
That's right.
And they certainly do not inspire confidence in a political process that works for all North Carolinians. But of course, that is not their intent.
Right.
It is all about self-dealing, self-serving, and hoarding power among a few. I urge those of you in the legislature who have a conscience, who care about the sanctity of our election process, to sustain a veto of SB 382. Thank you.
Amen. Not one step back.
Thank you, Democracy North Carolina, for standing with us, and we stand with you. At this point, I'm going to call the rest of the partners up, and they'll come in this order. Marcus Bass from North Carolina Black Alliance,
Yes.
and Jeremy Collins as well, standing with him. Caitlin Swain from Forward Justice, Serena Sebring from Blueprint North Carolina,
Yes.
and then John Parker from the North Carolina Council of Churches.
Yes, yes, yes.
I think it's very interesting to note that we are here in what should be a time of Thanksgiving, talking about radical treachery that's happening in this building.
Teach, Doc.
My name is Marcus Bass. I give leadership to the North Carolina Black Alliance. I'm joined by Jeremy Collins, an individual who has been in this building as a former legislative director for the governor's office, who understands the impact and implications of natural disasters and represents a rebuild back in Eastern North Carolina through Providence Omni Structure. We've been talking to elected officials across the state, particularly in Western North Carolina, who do not deserve the retaliatory actions that are being seen in this building today.
Yeah.
The payment for the resiliency of Western North Carolina should not be retaliation.
That's right.
In this moment, they do not deserve another sneak attack from the democratically elected individuals that should be supporting and having their back. I think it's important to note the 3 Republicans that chose not to support this treacherous bill because they understand that they are not going to be played by these simple tricks that we're seeing in this building. I think it's important to note, too, that individuals in the General Assembly that are on notice right now should note that there is no room to play with the disaster that's happening in Western North Carolina. Even if you try to come back and remedy, those 3 individual lawmakers have told the truth the first time.
Yeah.
We must listen to individuals the first time.
Yeah. First time.
Don't try to come back and whitewash what you have done by placating 3 individuals when you have destroyed the economy and the resiliency of Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
The 13 pages of relief that was shown a few minutes ago is a strong, strong indication of where we need to go. But over 118 additional pages talk about how far back they want to take us by covering up their actions in what should be a relief bill. Right. We're standing here today to make sure that individuals across the state understand that these individuals represent a coalition of groups that have been in community for a number of years, registering voters in the midst of a pandemic, working to educate individuals from all walks of life. And in the midst of the natural disaster of Hurricane Helene, they made the decision to shift priorities and be in the West, to provide protection and provide assistance for those that still had the right to vote in the midst of a natural disaster. And these individuals are here representing a chorus of people that turned out and made North Carolina a shining example in the South of that same resistance to Hurricane Helen and the radical politics in this building. And so it does us and it does them a good injustice, a deep injustice, not to acknowledge the harm that is caused by SB 382. We stand here collectively making sure that individuals know today, on the 2nd, on the 9th, and when the General Assembly comes back in January, we will not forget, we will not be silent, and we will show our strength in numbers and a positive, peaceful demonstration of the reality of what North Carolina is facing. We don't know how many times they can come back down from the mountain and ask for help. But we do know the one time that they did come back to ask for help, they got played by members in this body. And we must never forget, and the individuals that are in power must never forget the voters. The people make the final decision and have the final say. Forward together.
Not one step back.
Good morning. Good morning. Ooh. My name is Caitlin Swain, and I'm the co-director of Forward Justice. Today, we are coming here together to talk about a bill that no one asked for.
That's right.
More than 100 pages of a bill that was not requested by Western North Carolina. It was not requested by the voters of this state.
No.
It was not requested by the people who have been fighting for basic justice.
Basic justice.
We have already talked about what this bill is not about. But I want to underscore, this bill is suspect. This bill is suspect in its timing. It is suspect in its content. It is suspect in its process. But it is also suspect because it is a bill that we have seen before. This is a bill that brings together old stories, old efforts, and puts it into a kitchen sink bill already rejected by the people. This has been rejected by the people in the ballot box.
That's right.
It has been rejected by the courts. And it has been rejected now by the people of Western North Carolina and their representatives.
That's right.
This is not the bill for this time. As we gather here today, I am once again focused on motive.
Motive.
And the reason that we go to motive as lawyers is we are looking for what's really behind this. What is behind this bill? And what I see in this bill is a targeted attack on the will of the people that is being put forward by a majority that lost power. This is a constitutionally suspect bill. This is a morally suspect bill.
That's right.
Against the will of the people, this bill allows for political parties to receive essentially unlimited funds for corporations for their litigation and legal expenses. It transfers the authority over the North Carolina State Board elections from the governor to who, you all? The Department of the State Auditor. Did the auditor ask for that?
No.
Did the State Board of Elections ask for that?
No.
Is there any rational reason to transfer that power to an office that has nothing to do with overseeing elections?
No. Sir.
It makes significant changes, and Adrian already spoke to this, but we need to call this out. It makes significant changes to the processes for provisional ballot counting, ballot cure, absentee ballot requests, and absentee ballot counting, all of which will make it harder for North Carolinians to vote and have their votes counted, and would greatly burden county boards of elections, who we need right now to just note, what are our election officials doing right now as we speak? They are working around the clock to make sure that every voter's vote counts.
That's right.
And what is the General Assembly doing? Working to make it harder for them to do their job and for voters to have their votes count. I'm going to go through some more of these provisions because it is a dastardly bill.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It creates 2 special Superior Court judge positions that will be appointed by the North Carolina General Assembly leadership, while also removing, in a retaliatory effort, 2 elected Superior Court seats. It requires the governor to fill judicial vacancies in the Supreme Court and Court of Appeals with a justice or judge of the same party, a similar scheme that was already voted down by voters in 2018. It's recycled. Creates funds for the Rules Review Commission to offset litigation expenses and retain private counsel. If you can't do it through the General Assembly, they want to do it through the courts. Abolishes the Courts Commission, which studies and makes recommendations to improve issues in the judicial branch, like eliminating racially disparate treatment. Also in this bill, it gives North Carolina Chief Supreme Court Justice Paul Newby the power to decide who the senior resident Superior Court judge is in each district, rather than giving this designation to the longest serving judge, which is the current law. And finally, I want to note it bars the Attorney General from advancing any argument in an out-of-state litigation, whether as a party or as an amicus, that would result in the invalidation of any statute enacted by the North Carolina General Assembly. Why are they doing this? It is to remove checks and balances at a time when we know the people of this state have cried out clearly. We need checks and balances in this state. Our Constitution requires it. And the offices of this state are designed by Constitution to allow for and maintain that balance of power. I want to close noting that that is only a subset of what has been snuck into this bill at the 11th hour by a General Assembly that, as Bishop Barber reminds us, is in a lame duck session, having been told that the people of North Carolina do not want a supermajority in this state. They want the ability for veto overrides. We have been told that some people hoped that the people of North Carolina would be too tired, too tired in this time to come together and stand up, that it's Thanksgiving, that people are going to want to be with their families. And I want to say people are tired. People do want to be with their families, but we are not allowing this to happen in the dark. And as Forward Justice, we are committed to standing with this powerful coalition that has come together once again to say we will not let what you have sought to make be in the dark happen without our witness. And I believe that this bill will be stopped. We will go to Western North Carolina. We will be coming back in December. And I'm handing it over to the incredible leader, Serena, who is going to speak from Blueprint North Carolina on what it is possible in this time and why it is impossible for us to turn away.
That's right. Not one step.
Good morning. My name is Serena Sebring. I'm honored to serve as Executive Director of Blueprint North Carolina. Blueprint North Carolina is a coalition of over 100 progressive organizations across this state. We have been growing over the last several years and continue to grow to support the creation of a multiracial and inclusive democracy in our state. Yes. We use mobilization and movement building to make sure that the people's will is heard, and that is what we're here to talk about today. It is so important to understand that North Carolina voters are heroes. North Carolina voters are actually unstoppable. They face tremendous odds this time around, tremendous. And some of those odds came because this General Assembly keeps changing the rules. North Carolina voters had to adjust to district lines being redrawn, had to adjust to the disenfranchisement, then reenfranchisement, then disenfranchisement again of justice-involved voters, had to adjust again to changing rules about voter ID, even when our elected officials tried to get in the way of the people that they represent. North Carolina voters turned out. North Carolina voters in Western North Carolina turned out, North Carolina voters across the state, and what they said is that we believe in democracy. That's right. Yes. That's right. It was so clear. They said, we know that single party rule is not good for the people of our state. That's right. The people's mandate was for checks and balances. And against all odds, and despite tremendous challenges in this time around, North Carolina spoke. It is time for the people's officials to listen to us. Yes. It is time to understand that what is done in the dark comes out in the light. That's right. And we will not be coming to this people's house for the people to be betrayed again. Yes. But let me tell you when we will come again. We will come again on December 2nd. The people will come again on the 9th and thereafter to make sure that our will is heard, because this is a betrayal of the people's trust. That's right. We know deeply about the challenges that North Carolina voters faced at the polls. Blueprint North Carolina partners registered hundreds of thousands of voters this time, turned out millions of voters, and then supported them at the polls to make sure that their questions were answered and that they did not find that they were disenfranchised, because we believe that every voter's vote needs to count. And when it has, we need to listen to that. So we are here as Blueprint North Carolina to join with this moral movement, to say, not on our watch. Yeah. We came out, we voted, we were clear, and North Carolina is done with single party rule.
Yes. Not one step back.
As our final speaker comes, John Parker from Council of Churches, and after him we will answer any questions.
Greetings. It's good to be with friends and allies. I'm John Parker with the North Carolina Council of Churches. We're an 89-year-old ecumenical organization that's made up of 27 judicatories, 19 denominations, over 6,200 congregations representing about 1.5 million North Carolinians that are once again standing up for justice and for democracy with our friends and allies here. And we say no to this power grab. No. We're asking the governor to veto this bill. We're asking North Carolinians to contact your representatives and let them know how you feel. You just actually told North Carolina how you feel through your votes, right? So we're not interested in actually you betraying the trust that was earned with the votes that were just cast.
Yeah.
So we're here in solidarity with our friends. We're a proud Blueprint partner. We're a proud partner with the Poor People's Campaign. And once again, we're asking faith communities around North Carolina to contact your representatives and let them know what you think about this anti-democratic bill. And once the veto comes through, we are asking North Carolinians to help your representatives do the right thing and sustain the veto. So, once again, we're inviting you on December 2nd, come back to the People's House.
Yeah.
Right? We're asking again, join us as part of the Moral Monday Coalition on December 9th, right? And let's do what we need to do to live into our state's motto, to be rather than to seem.
Yeah.
Right? To be rather than to seem, which means that we need to lift the light and not let the forces of darkness do what they're doing. So once again, December 2nd, December 9th, and then keep your shoes on because you're probably going to have to keep coming back out.
Yeah.
All right, forward together.
Not one step back.
Members of the media, as you see, these are people that love people, people that work with people. This is only a portion of the coalition we'll be calling together. On the 2nd, we want to fill up this place and fill up the gallery. We come in the greatest tradition of nonviolence and truth and love, but we're serious because this is a political coup. That's all it is. And it's a form of political violence to people who should be getting every effort in this House to lift them up rather than to use their hurt as a pretext for hurting this democracy and for breaking this democracy. On the 9th, we're calling on all people, and I want to say this clearly, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, we're calling on everybody who disagrees with this kind of government to come and to be here. We'll be announcing the time soon. And you know, repairs of the breach and the North Carolina Poor People's Campaign and then across this country, during this electoral season, we touched 12 million, 15 million poor and low-wage voters. In this state alone, we reached out to over 900,000 poor and low-wage voters around, and just in this state alone. Because any attempt, and I always go back and then we'll take questions, to something that was asked Caitlin when we were in court beating this General Assembly, the majority, over voter suppression. When a judge from a 3-panel group out of South Carolina, judge out of South Carolina, and he said to the Republicans at that time, the extremists who were pushing voter suppression, why is it that you all don't want people to vote? I've never forgotten that question. He said, that's the question. Why is it that you do not want people to vote? Could it be that you know that what you're offering, particularly in public policy, the majority of the people don't want it?
Right.
And so what you try to do is steal and grab rather than lift and help. We are not going to be silent.
Yeah.
We're going to speak with our voices.
That's right.
We're going to speak with our litigation if necessary. We're going to speak with our political agitation. We're going to speak with our bodies. But the one thing we're not going to do is allow this bill and all of these pages of turnback and slickery and trickery and taking away the rights of people. All of this has to go away.
Yeah.
That's right.
And the only thing that needs to be in this bill is a clean bill that lifts up our brothers and sisters in Western North Carolina. Anything less than that is immoral. I'd like to say it is immorally indefensible, and it's constitutionally inconsistent, and it's economically insane. Anything less than that. We can take questions from the media for any of our partners. If you want to call on them, we invite you at this time. Yes.
Reverend,
Yeah.
are you planning on arrests on Monday the 9th?
We're planning on coming in the fullness of our humanity and in the fullness of all who we are. We never come to get arrested. That's never been our point. Even when we were arrested in 2013, we didn't come to get arrested. We came to stand with placards and to protest. They arrested us saying we didn't have a right to be in the between the doors. We didn't have a right to hold placards. And of course the courts overturned that and said we did have a right. So we never come to get arrested. What we come to do is arrest the attention of this state and arrest the attention of all people of goodwill so that they can't do this in the dark. What is most grotesque about this is they don't even want you all to know. Everybody in North Carolina ought to be upset on this one. This is one we all ought to be able to come together on because they don't want anybody to know what's really going on. So we're coming to arrest the attention of this state.
Question for the General Leslie. State lawmakers were on Capitol Hill last week meeting with the North Carolina delegation in the House and Senate asking for more federal help. We heard Republicans on the floor during the debate saying we're going to need more federal help. What would you like to see lawmakers in the House and the Senate do to provide federal relief outside of the state funds to assist those in the western part of the state?
Come on, let's come over.
What the federal government does is up to the federal government. We need to petition them. That's important. But you don't go to Washington and say, we're going to blow off Western North Carolina, the hell with them, you need to fix it. Well, no, we all need to work together to fix it, and they're not doing enough.
You feel the state law is not doing enough?
Absolutely not. We need at least double, triple what they're offering us. They've got all this huge surplus they're so damn proud of. Well, why don't we spend some of it on people who've lost everything and who don't have any means to get it back? That's what we need. We need a moral solution to this and to say, we're not going to give you enough. We don't care that you're not eating. We don't care that you're being evicted. We want more power. That's not going to fly.
May I?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I would also like to say from the federal government, they can provide us more rental assistance, real robust rental assistance. The amount of rental assistance that the state provided for all of Western North Carolina, the whole region, $1 million. That will house maybe 200 families. And we have thousands of people living in tents and campers, unhoused, about to be unhoused. We need financial support. We need it for our child care assistance as well and small businesses so that we don't lose our small locally run businesses and keep people in our region.
We had snow yesterday. We had snow, and when I looked out the window in the morning and saw the snow, it wasn't isn't this pretty, it was how many people are living in tents and brushing the snow off the tents today.
And that is why you've already seen something that we haven't seen much in this General Assembly. The Republicans from the West said no to this. They voted and said, no, this is wrong. The two areas of our state that are often neglected are the West and the East.
That's right. Yep.
And those are also where great pockets of poverty are. And we need to talk about it like that. And it's amazing how the very people, for instance, who say we want to cut the federal government, we find out how foolish that is in times of disasters.
Yeah.
That we need the federal government, but we also need the state government. And how backwards is it for you to take 13 pages out of over 100 pages, 13 to relieve the people in the western part of the state, over 100 and some pages to try to steal the democracy, and then go to the federal government and say, help us.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even make logical sense.
Pretty cynical.
But what should happen is you should do everything you can here, everything they can here, and then go to the federal government and say, join us. But you should set the example right here in the state. They're actually doing it backwards, and that's why it's so wrong. Any other questions from media? Yes, ma'am.
Just to follow up on that, one of the arguments that they give is that if they spend money, then they will not get it back, and the federal government could do the spending for them. What's your answer to that?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Rob say something to that as well. But the reality is, this General Assembly has a propensity to just lie. They lied about the Affordable Care Act. They said it was going to help a lot of people who were lazy and didn't have health care. They made as though it was just Obamacare helping black people, when in fact the Affordable Care Act, 500,000 people, 350,000 of them were white. they said it wouldn't hurt hospitals being closed, and hospitals had to close because we didn't take that money. It's federal and state in tandem. But here, in concert. But here's the problem. This bill doesn't deal with any of that. What they're passing here is not about whether or not we give too much, the federal government might pull back on some of these resources, which is absolutely not true. This bill is all about taking the power. It has nothing to do with hurricane relief. That's why we're saying this is not a clean bill. This is a dirty, 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 dirty bill. I mean, think about one of the provisions. Here people are hurting, outside, struggling, houses gone, and you're more worried about putting the Board of Elections in the auditor's office than you are about auditing how bad people are hurting and finding a way to fund that hurt so that it doesn't continue. Everything about this bill makes absolutely no sense. Rob, you wanted to speak to that?
Yeah, and this federal government thing is a distraction because it is, as the Budget and Tax Center in their report has pointed out, the Congressional Research Services notes that in the U.S. we have a bottom-up approach to disaster relief. It follows the leadership of the local and state governments. And while the federal government has resources and expertise that are helpful, it's supposed to be a supplemental role. And in the preliminary disaster assessment in North Carolina, federal funding was expected to be $13.6 billion. And that's still just 25%. And on a deeper level, the story of the brother who's been helping everyone, he doesn't care who it comes from, whether it's federal or state. He's homeless today.
That's right. Yeah.
There's things that are going to take a long time, but there's things that can happen right now. There's businesses that will never come back to Western North Carolina. There are people who will never come back to Western North Carolina if they don't get the help today. There's child care centers that won't be open again. And we are in a building led by someone who has been quoted by the media saying that he actually doesn't believe the state has a role in child care. That the state, Senator Burke has said that he fundamentally, he acquiesced to pressure and allowed for some funding, but fundamentally he doesn't believe that the state has a role in funding child care. And we have been duped into thinking that's okay, that that's a moderate position. That is a radical position in 2024, that you don't think 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, and 4-year-olds should have child care, that you believe that child care workers, which we asked them when we came back last term, should be allowed to go homeless because they haven't funded it at the level they need. So yes, everyone has a role, but let's not let them, we cannot let them play this game of blame game with federal government just going off this old states' rights, garbage.
And
thank you.
Yes, at least they're honest about where they stand.
They can't have it both ways. 1 minute they want states' rights, and they say they want everything coming up from the state. Then when it comes to this, they say, well, we want to pass it off to the federal. What we're saying is do what is right. Our Constitution is clear in its preamble what this government is supposed to be about. This is not what it's about. Power is supposed to come from the people, not be subverted by a majority or supermajority at a particular time. And then lastly, and I'd ask the media to do this, call them on the Constitution of North Carolina. You know, there's this article, I think it's Article 11, Section 4, where it says beneficent provision to the poor and to the orphan is the first duty of a Christian state. It actually says that in our Constitution, that their first duty of the state ought to be how they are lifting the poor and the children and the orphan and those that are in need. This bill proves that they are out of line with their own Constitution. Because this bill, they think their first duty is to use people's pain in order to push in painful, destructive, undemocratic takeover and political coups in our government. It is contrary. It is contrary to the very thing they swore to uphold, which is the Constitution of the North Carolina. All right, we'll be here in a second, and we'll be here on the 9th. Tell everybody, forward together.
Not one step back.
We're doing the best we can.